Yes, it happened again. The Cowboys just made another move in free agency, and this time, it's on the offensive line. Robert Jones is now a Dallas Cowboy, but hey, let's be real for a second. Did you even know who Robert Jones was before this signing made the news? That's not a shot, it's a genuine question. Because if you're like most fans, this name probably didn't ring any bells at first. And that's exactly why we need to talk about it. So here's the basic rundown. Robert Jones, offensive lineman, spent the last few seasons with the Miami Dolphins. He entered the league as an undrafted free agent back in 2021, coming out of Middle Tennessee. Not a flashy background, not a first-round pedigree, but he managed to carve out some playing time over the past couple of years in Miami, especially when injuries hit their starting unit. But again, let's not sugarcoat things. We're not talking about a Pro Bowler here. We're talking about a depth piece, a rotational guy, maybe a backup, maybe a long shot to make the final 53, or maybe, just maybe, a hidden gem waiting for the right opportunity. Now, I want to know from you, did you already know who Robert Jones was before this signing? Let's put that in the comments section or in the video poll. Did you know who Robert Jones was before this Cowboys move? Yes or no, go ahead and vote. I'm really curious to see where the fan base stands on this one. Because honestly, that's the first reaction a lot of us had. Wait, who? And when that's the reaction to a new addition, it always raises the question. Is this just another low-profile signing to fill a roster spot, or is there something more behind it? And that's exactly where we're going next. Let's talk about the money. Because sometimes, how much you pay a guy says more than what his name does. Alright, let's get into the part that really matters in the NFL, the money. Robert Jones signed a one-year deal worth up to $4.75 million with the Cowboys. Sounds like a decent chunk of change for a player most fans hadn't even heard of before, right? But here's the catch. We still don't know how much of that contract is actually guaranteed, and that makes all the difference. Because in today's league, the headline number on a contract doesn't tell the full story. What matters is how much of that money is real. How much are the Cowboys actually committing to this guy? Is this a true investment or just a low-risk flyer? Think back to last year, Chuma Edoga signed with Dallas on a similar type of deal. It sounded like a solid depth move, but in the end, he was barely a factor. So it begs the question, is Robert Jones just another version of Edoga? A placeholder, a temporary patch for a roster hole? And let me ask you directly, do you think the Cowboys should be paying up to $4.75 million for a guy who might not even be a guaranteed starter? Drop your opinion in the comments. How much of that contract do you think is actually guaranteed money? $50 okay, $1 million? Less more, let's hear it, because here's the truth. If this deal is mostly non-guaranteed, then it's just a camp competition contract. A prove-it deal, a shot in the dark. But if the Cowboys actually gave him real guaranteed cash, then it tells us they see him as more than just a warm body for training camp. And that's what makes this signing tricky to read. It's not just about the player, it's about how the front office views him. Are they expecting Jones to push for a starting role, or are they just stocking the shelves with bodies for depth? To answer that, we've got to go deeper than contract numbers. We've got to look at what Jones actually does on the field. Let's break down his performance right now. Now, let's dive into what we really care about. How does Robert Jones perform when he's actually on the field? Jones played as a left guard for the Miami Dolphins, and while he wasn't a complete liability, his numbers paint a bit of a mixed picture. Over his recent seasons, he allowed 5 sacks, for hits, and was responsible for 19 hurries and 28 pressures. To put that in perspective, those are not the kind of numbers you want to see from a starting offensive lineman, especially when you're talking about a player coming in to potentially solidify your line. But hold on, it's not all bad. Jones has been a versatile piece for the Dolphins. He didn't just play left guard. He's also filled in at right guard and even right tackle at times. That kind of flexibility can be valuable for a team like the Cowboys, especially when you're looking for depth along the offensive line. Versatility is important, and it might be what ultimately gives him a shot in Dallas. However, the question remains, is Robert Jones the kind of player you want as a starter for the Cowboys? Can he be the anchor you need in a division as tough as the NFC East? Or is he more of a backup piece, filling in when necessary? Let me ask you, what grade would you give this signing based on what you've seen from Robert Jones on tape? A B, C, D, or F? You've seen the numbers. What's your gut feeling? Vote in the poll or drop a comment with your grade and why you think he deserves it. And as much as his versatility is appealing, the reality is, if you're going to make him a starter, you need to see improvement in key areas. Specifically, avoiding pressures and cutting down on those sacks. But hey, he's got the opportunity to prove himself in Dallas. The question is, can he rise to the occasion? That's the big question for the Cowboys and their fans right now. So, where does he fit into the current lineup? Let's break that down next. With Robert Jones now on the roster, the next question on everyone's mind is, will he actually be a starter? Or is he just another body fighting for a spot? The Cowboys' offensive line is packed with talent and potential. So, where does Jones fit into the equation? Well, to start, he's going to face some stiff competition. Guys like TJ Bass, Brock Hoffman, and even Cooper Beebe are all in the mix for the starting spots. And let's not forget about Tyler Smith. He's already a key part of the line and could also shift around if needed. So, while Jones brings versatility, he'll need to outplay some serious talent to lock down a permanent role. Now, think about the depth of the offensive line for a second. The Cowboys already have some solid pieces in place, but the reality is they could use some more physicality up front. Jones' presence may push the Cowboys to consider a more power-focused offensive approach, especially when it comes to run blocking. If he impresses enough, could we see a shift in the offensive scheme to accommodate a more aggressive, physical style? However, the big question remains, is Jones going to be the solution at guard, or will he be stuck in a backup role? The Cowboys could use him as a strategic reserve, someone they can call on when needed, but there's also the possibility that he's just another emergency option in case of injury or underperformance from the starters. What do you think? Who should be the starting guard in 2025 for the Cowboys? Is it Jones, or do you think someone else deserves that role more? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. This is an important decision for the Cowboys, and they'll have to make it soon. But before we get too deep into that, let's take a step back and look at something crucial. Does this signing really move the needle for the team's overall needs? Alright, let's cut to the chase. Robert Jones may be a piece of the puzzle, but let's be real, he's not the whole picture. The Cowboys have a lot of work left to do if they want to truly contend next season. Now, don't get me wrong, Jones adds some depth and versatility to the offensive line, but does this really solve the major issues on this team? When you look at the Cowboys' current roster, it's clear that there are still glaring holes that need to be addressed. Take a look at positions like cornerback, linebacker, and the defensive depth in general. The Cowboys can't just rely on one or two signings in free agency to turn things around. They need more than that. If we're being honest, this signing feels like it might just give fans a false sense of security. We're all excited about any new addition, especially when it's an offensive lineman, but is Jones really enough to fix what's broken? The team's defensive secondary, for example, is still in need of serious attention, and what about the linebackers? The Cowboys could really use a game-changing player on defense, someone who can make an immediate impact. So, what do you think? Does this move truly solve any of the Cowboys' key issues? Or is it just another small fix that won't make a big difference in the long run? Drop your thoughts below in the comments. I'm curious to know if you feel optimistic about Jones or if you think the Cowboys need more substantial. changes to be competitive, and hey, if you also want to see some real reinforcements this offseason, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe. We're only getting started with the coverage, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.